Hi, everyone. My name is Katie. I'm Deadline's senior TV and labor reporter. I hope you are as excited for this next panel as I am. Thelastofus, if you play video games, you will know, originally launched in 2013 to critical acclaim. Joel and Ellie's story was hailed as a masterpiece long before the HBO adaptation, but a few years ago, about a decade after the game launched, it gripped a new audience for TV with the HBO adaptation, which received an astounding 24 Emmy nominations and 8 wins. Season 2, which is based off of The Last of Us Part 2, is a week away from its premiere on April 13th. So we have a few people here to discuss. Please help me welcome co-creator, writer, director, and executive producer CraigMazin. Co-creator, writer, director, and executive producer Neildruckmann. And star Bella Ramsey. Okay, before we get started, we have a trailer for you from season 2.
You okay?
Yeah.
This is where we live. On what side?
The fence.
What's inside?
People.
What's outside?
Monsters.
By the time the sun comes up tomorrow, there's a very good chance you'll be dead. You're gonna lose.
Don't you know what he did? You swore.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I want to start by asking, with season 1, it was very well received. The audience grew every week. It got so many Emmy nominations. What was that process of just putting it out into the world like after working on it for so long? And how did the reception of season 1, what was the mindset going into season 2?
I mean, we got tattoos. That's how happy we were. I just inked myself. I don't think any of us expected it was going to be what it was. We were really proud of it, and our hope was that that the fans of the game would be pleased, and that there would be a lot of new people that maybe don't game but could experience the story. I mean, that's kind of why we wanted to do it in the first place, to bring it to everybody. But yeah, that that turned into a thing. It was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt.
Yeah. I agree that we sort of, I think, didn't really know what it was going to be like. And now going into season 2, there was obviously the expectation of what season 1 was like and the expectation to match that, or if not, top it. And I think that even when I was reading the scripts, I was like, oh yeah, these guys are good. So yeah, season 2 is exciting. We said when we were making it, there's like more show within the show, which I think is true.
Yeah, I think at times you just forget how many people are watching it and care about it and are invested in it and are talking and arguing about it online. And then you're kind of heads down for so long, right? 2 years working on this season. Now we're finally coming up for air, and I can't wait to see what people think about it. It's going to be cool.
Well, part 2, the game is a lot bigger in scope and scale, and I imagine that will translate to the show. Was there anything different or more challenging about approaching part 2 as opposed to part 1?
I think one of the challenges was its scope and its scale. That game 1, we were able to get that whole story into a single season. Here, we had to plan multiple seasons to like think about the whole story and where it eventually goes, and then start with like, okay, this is chapter 1 of that story is this season. So that required a different kind of breaking of the season than we did on season 1.
We develop characters because time has gone by. So we're asking Pedro, what is it like 5 years later? We're asking Bella, what is it like 5 years later? But for Bella in particular, they went from playing a character who was 14 to a character that's 19, which is sort of along the path that you were actually on. I mean, I think you were 16 maybe when you first arrived.
I was 17 and then
I thought you
20.
turned 17 with us.
I turned 8.
Ah, nice. 17 to 20-ish, right? So those years are massive in anyone's life. So Bella's going through that experience in reality, and then the character's going through that. So the relationships and the way that these characters, typically season 2, there isn't like, oh, you're a different person. It's not a different person, but kind of. You grow up. And so making sure that we infused that into the story and used it and made it part of things was really important. And I cannot wait for you to see what Bella did.
Thanks.
It's good.
Neil, I read somewhere that you usually recommend that the actors don't play the game, and I'm curious if you can explain why.
Well, first of all,
It's a bad game.
It's a horrible game. You shouldn't play it. We do recommend that, and I think all the actors don't listen to us and either play the game or they watch playthroughs of the game. The reason is, we love the game so much, and we love those original performances so much. Ashley Johnson played Ellie, Troy Baker, Joel, and so on and so forth. We then bring on these amazing actors, these artists, not to copy, but to interpret, to internalize, and make it their own. And that's the thinking there. Is like, we always believe if we just copy, it's going to be a lesser version than the original. If you make it your own, it'll be different, it'll be unique, it'll be fresh, it'll be a worthwhile journey to go on with these collaborators.
And something on that as well is that you took all of the best bits from the game and like put it into the script. So for me, I did watch some of the walkthrough of the game, but it didn't feel entirely necessary because everything that I needed to know you'd extracted from it and put in the scripts, basically. So it's such a good blueprint to work from. The game as the source material was amazing to like reference, but there was everything that we needed was in the scripts that you crafted so beautifully.
Bella, going off of that, as an actor, what were some of the most important parts of Ellie that you really wanted to shine through in your performance, and especially going into season 2, figuring out just what her motivations are and what her headspace is like?
Season 2, I wanted to, I guess, feel her like heaviness a bit more. I think she's a little like harder. She's a bit more like Joel, I feel. I feel like I emulated Pedro a little bit, which was fun. But also she's still the same person. Like she's got the same sense of humor, but she's, as Craig said, been through a lot over these 5 years. So it's just sort of understanding what's gone on in her history and her relationship with Joel and how that's changed and new things that she's learned and is learning. And so it was just kind of her feeling older, but that wasn't something that I was like very conscious of because I'm older naturally, and as I said, like it's all in the script. So yeah, just sort of approached it in the way I did season 1, which is just kind of wing it.
Show up and do it.
Yeah.
Craig, you were actually working with Neil on season 1 while he was still in development on part 2. And I'm curious if having some early access to part 2 and, you know, being with Neil while he was still in development on it changed how you approach the television adaptation versus being a player of part 1. And
Without a doubt. I would have been crazy, and it kind of would have been malpractice, honestly, to not consider what was coming. So we had a chance to tell the story of the first game with more context and more information than even Neil had when he wrote it, because of the story of the second game. So there are things that we took into account, but I think it's a testament to how well Neil and Hallie Gross wrote the second game, that it wasn't like we had to change a bunch of things about how the story of the first game operates. It was really being just more aware, mostly of Ellie, and how we knew her character was going to change and grow, and so there were some things that we could kind of plant some little seeds for, but it was incredibly useful for me.
There were also some thematic themes that, you know, we knew we were going to get into with stuff in the second game that we're able to pull up. Like, you know, some of the stuff in like Kansas City that happens speaks directly thematically to the stuff that would happen later in the story.
The games are pretty visceral in their depiction of gore and violence. I think part 2 is even more so than part 1. And also the infected are really terrifying. And I'm curious how you make that translate realistically to television and elicit those same feelings that the game elicits without making it feel gimmicky.
This is the obsession that we have when we are preparing and when we are developing prosthetics and when we are working on set with stunt performers and special effects, and most importantly in post-production with visual effects. So much of what we do is, particularly with visual effects, is to try and remove the VFX-ness from it. That is, you know, like our Alex Wong, our VFX supervisor, says the highest compliment is when people don't know I did my job. That's when I know I did my job, when it is seamless. So we tend to avoid heavy saturation. We tend to try and integrate as much as we can into the reality of the world. And we make real sets. We use real fire, and then we enhance. We use lots of blood you can see, and then we enhance. And then, you know, Bella knows that in a lot of these circumstances, half of it is how afraid Ellie looks, or how excited, or how, you know, intense, because it's the interaction sometimes with something that isn't even there that sells it all. And, you know, Bella, Isabel, everybody is just, I marvel at how well you guys do that.
Why, thanks. There's also something that we have to do on set, which no one really knows about, which are VFX scans, where at lunch or at the end of a really long day, I have to go and stand in like a camera cage like this, and there's like 1,000 cameras that take 1,000 photos to make like a 3D model, I guess, for reference.
Oh, yes.
It's really cool.
Incredibly helpful.
I'm glad it gets used.
It does
I
get
always
used.
wonder.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we're not doing it like for kickbacks or something, you know, like. Actually, I own that thing and I rent it to the show, so.
Just to torture us.
Yeah, it's not even connected to anything.
Bella, you explained a little bit already, but I'm hoping you can explain a bit more about the evolution of Ellie and Joel's relationship, and, you know, what you gleaned from that in season 1 and going into season 2, and also how you and Pedro worked together to find your own version of that.
Well, I actually forgot at the end of the trailer, you see me say, "You swore." So there's some, definitely some doubt that Ellie has about that lie that Joel told her at the end of season 1. And so I think that plays a big part in the shift in their relationship. Also, it's just Ellie's growing up and wanting this independence and freedom and autonomy, and without the shadow of an overprotective father figure being Joel. And so that influences it a lot. Me and Pedro are exactly the same offset, but it's really difficult actually playing being cold to him. It doesn't feel nice. It was way more fun when I got to just make fun of him all day. But this is, it's sadder for sure, and it will continue to just get sadder and more cold. So look forward to that.
Great sales tool.
That's why they hire me.
Yeah. But by they, you mean us.
Yeah.
Hopefully, on maybe a little bit more of a positive note, we're only a week away from season 2 premiering, and so I want to just conclude by asking you what you're most excited for audiences to finally get to see.
For me, that's an easy one. I cannot wait for people to experience Ellie and Dina and their relationship, their teamwork, their partnership, how funny they are together, how sweet they are together, how moving, and ultimately how meaningful that relationship is. I just, every time the two of them are together, you just go, you rivet to the scene. I can't explain it. All I know is it works. It's amazing.
Yeah, people always ask us, it's like, oh, is season 2 as good as season 1? And we just say, it's very different. It's such a roller coaster ride with so many twists and turns. I see people, it's funny, there's people that know, and they're guessing, and they're getting some stuff right, a lot of stuff wrong. And there's people that don't know, and they're guessing. I just can't wait for them to experience it and just watch those conversations week to week as this thing comes out, because you all are not ready.
I'm excited for people to see some of the later episodes. They're the freshest in my memory because they're the last ones that we filmed. And yeah, they just, it was so much fun. They're so intense. And yeah, I'm excited for people to see episode 6 and 7 specifically.
Take notes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And next, we're going to have Nelly and Jariva moderating a panel with the actors from Étoile.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys.